You're listening to Inside the Locker Room with Wimp and Barry Sanderson on Tide 100.9 in Tuscaloosa. Inside the Locker Room with former Crimson Tide basketball coach Wimp Sanderson and his son, former SEC and ACC assistant basketball coach Barry Sanderson. It's time to take you inside the locker room on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
And good morning. Welcome in to Inside the Locker Room here on Friday, October 11th. I am not Barry Sanderson, nor am I Wimp Sanderson. Who am I? My name is Wyatt Fulton. I am the brand manager here at Tide 100.9 and 1230 WTBC, your home of Alabama Crimson Tide sports. Barry's off doing some things that he needs to do. Wimp is also off doing some things he needs to do. So Chase and I are holding down the fort this morning from 7 to 9 a.m. At 9 a.m., the Gary Harris Show will take over live from Innisfree Irish Pub. And then at 11 a.m., I will also be joining Gary at Innisfree Irish Pub for my own personal show. So we're going to have a lot of fun today. You guys can call in at 205-342-9904, or you can download that free Tide 100.9 app and leave us an app message there as well. We'd love to get you guys in on the conversation today on a free-for-all Friday. If you guys don't jump in on the conversation, we're going to go ahead and jump in right into the content here as well. We're going to take a look at the top 25, where most of these teams in the top 25 are playing this weekend, what we kind of think the outcomes are, and how things can shake out following a very exciting weekend in the world of college football. We've got a pretty good matchup in the Big 12 tonight already. Utah and Arizona State getting things rocking and rolling tonight. I believe yesterday I may have said Thursday night that game was being played. I can't remember. But legit, I spent all day yesterday thinking, did I say Thursday or Friday for Utah and Arizona State? So that game's played tonight, Friday night, not last night, Thursday night, between Utah and Arizona State. Cam Rising is expected to play. I know we hit on that a little bit yesterday as well. Cam Rising is expected to play for Utah. His first action in 3 games, I believe 3 games, 4 weeks for Cam Rising. So that's going to be a lot of fun watching him get back in the saddle and start to lead the Utah Utes. Try and salvage the season for Utah because they've got a lot of tough road games, or maybe not necessarily just road games, but they've got a lot of tough games up on their schedule here the rest of the way. Arizona State's not a pushover program, but Utah with Cam Rising should probably handle Arizona State. And so that's a good match. That's a good matchup. That's a game that I'm excited to watch tonight. Utah, this game opened, or at least yesterday, Utah was a 3-point favorite. Now Utah is a 5.5-point favorite because of the news yesterday that Cam Rising is returning to the starting lineup for the Utes. And so this is a big matchup here. Utah, people seem to like Cam Rising. People seem to think Cam Rising is a needle mover because Utah gained 2.5 points on the spread, according to the spread. Total over-under is 46.5. Utah gained 2.5 points on the spread because of Cam Rising returning to that starting lineup. So, say what you want about Cam Rising in Utah. However, he seems to be a pretty good quarterback for the Utes. Vegas seems to think so, and the bettors seem to think so as well. So, Utah is one of those teams that's in the playoff hunt. Right now, they're on the outside looking in. I believe, I say that, I don't have the full AP top 25 pulled up in front of me. So I don't quite know if Utah is the highest ranked Big 12 champion. Give me 1 second. So from starting at number 1, you've got Texas in the SEC, Ohio State in the Big 10, Oregon in the Big 10. They play later this week as well. We'll talk about that matchup today as well. Penn State number 4, Georgia number 5, Miami number 6, Alabama number 7, Tennessee number 8, Ole Miss number 9, Clemson number 10. Iowa State is number 11, sitting at 5-0 in not just in conference play, but on the young season. So Iowa State, as of right now, if the season ended today and we were playing in the college football playoff tomorrow, Iowa State would be your college football playoff team. Now, Iowa State's got a road game this weekend as well against West Virginia, who is 2-0 in the Big 12, though. So in terms of conference championship standings, they're sitting in the very same spot that Iowa State is in. Now, they're 3-2 overall, but they're 2-0 in the Big 12. So as of right now, West Virginia and Iowa State are sitting in the same spot, despite Iowa State being undefeated and West Virginia barely floating above 500. Iowa State is a 3-point favorite down in Morgantown, West Virginia this weekend. Over-under in that game is 53.5. And I like Iowa State in this game. I expect the Cyclones to keep things rolling, keep it undefeated. They've got a good schedule. Iowa State is a real playoff contender because of their quarterback, Rocco Becht. I like him a lot. He's a great thrower of the football. And if this would ever load, I would tell you the rest of Iowa State's schedule so we can determine if we think they're going to go undefeated or not. Here we go. At West Virginia this weekend, this Saturday. Then they host Central Florida, who's been a bit of a rough program. Central Florida's had a kind of a rough year. Not the year they expected to have with former Auburn head coach Gus Malzahn and former Arkansas quarterback KJ Jefferson. They have not quite had the year that they've wanted. Maybe they can get a rebound against Iowa State, but you're traveling from Orlando, Florida to Iowa State. I don't know. That's a lot of travel. That's a lot of moving. And so for a bad football team, or a struggling football team, I should say, like Central Florida, it's going to take even more to be able to pull off this upset. Iowa State, again, is only a 3-point favorite over West Virginia. So maybe, the Mountaineers can get something done this weekend and pull off an upset, knock off one of those undefeateds now. But we'll see. Iowa State's got a pretty decent schedule. Texas, and by decent, I mean easy. Texas Tech, they go to Kansas, they host Cincinnati, and then you get the last 2 games of the year that are the tough ones. You go to Utah, 16th ranked Utah on November 23rd, and then you host 18th ranked Kansas State on November 30th. So if Iowa State is going to go undefeated, and they've already got a win over number 21 Iowa as well. If Iowa State goes undefeated, they've got the strength of record with 2 probable ranked wins on that schedule with Utah and Kansas State. So that's a good schedule there for Iowa State. You gear all year up to the 2 biggest games of the year. And then you finally, once you play them, whatever happens, happens. So good little schedule there for the Big 12. But again, Utah and Arizona State kicking off tonight. Utah 5.5-point favorite. Total over under is 46.5. Give me the Utes. I like Utah in this game, despite it being in Tempe, Arizona. Arizona State's a good program. Matter of fact, both these teams are both 4-1, 1-1 in Big 12 play. So this game is going to separate one of them from the rest of the pack. And so I think Utah's getting Cam Rising back, getting your star quarterback back. I think this is the game that Utah takes that step and turns into the Big 12 contender that myself and a lot of other people expected them to be heading into the start of this season. We're going to go to the phone lines here real quick. Let's start off with Max here in Tupelo, Mississippi. Max, how you doing today?
Good, Wyatt. How are you?
Doing all right, man. What's on your mind this morning?
Man, I think this South Carolina game, I think it's the most important game of the season. And in his young Alabama career, it may be the most important game in Kalen DeBoer's career at Alabama, obviously. Because the way they respond is going to tell you a lot about the coach's mentality and their approach and the players' mentality this weekend. Like, if we barely squeak out a win against South Carolina, it's going to tell me a lot that I'm not going to be very confident about the rest of the season. Now, if we come in and we absolutely hammer South Carolina, then as a fan base, we should be like, okay, we understand that, last week was possibly not necessarily a fluke because you can't take anything away from Vanderbilt, but
right.
A complete letdown from the Georgia High.
It's a hangover week.
People forget these are young kids, man, and when they get up so high for a game like Georgia, it's hard to bring those emotions back again the next week, man, because at that age, that's what you're playing with is nothing but pure emotions.
Yeah.
And it's hard to get them to focus 2 weeks in a row, man. It really is. I remember being that age. So it's going to tell me a lot about their mentality and whether we have a chance for the rest of this season to achieve the goals that we set or they set for themselves before the season. Everything is not lost.
No, it's not.
Everything is not lost. That one loss to Vanderbilt did not kill all of the goals that we want to achieve. SEC championship is still possible. Playoff berth, national championship still possible and very likely. So we're going to see if that's viable Saturday. That's why I think it's the most important game of the season.
I absolutely agree. I think, Saturday is going to kind of tell us a lot about what this team is. Let me propose this question to you, though, because you know who's next on the schedule, Tennessee. And so if Alabama squeaks out a win against South Carolina, are you at all are you just fully concerned saying, oh, crap, this isn't good? Or are you kind of giving them maybe the benefit of the doubt saying, hey, look, they got Tennessee next week. Maybe they were peeking behind the curtain and looking at that game instead of looking at South Carolina?
No, that's too many excuses because you burnt your excuse last week. You burnt your excuse last week.
That's fair. That's fair. I agree.
That's the one time. Now you should be awake now. Like that should open your damn eyes.
You should be locked in every single week now. Because your back's against the wall now.
Yes. Like every single week, you should be extremely focused because last week should have done that to you. That's what I meant about. Are we going to see what mentality?
Yeah, no. I get what you're saying. And it does. Like if they come out and they, beat South Carolina, 52-3, then like, okay, last week was, a hangover week. We understand that happens sometimes. You're all 23 and younger. I get it. It happens. But if you come out against South Carolina and you say, oh, well, Alabama didn't change anything in the run defense. The offense is still not being able to get on the field because the defense can't get a darn third down stop. And then when the offense is on the field, it takes them 3 drives to get going. But let's say you squeak out a win, 24-17 or something like that. That's concerning. That's a problem.
Extremely concerning. And I would then really, and I hate to do this, but I would then really be saying, okay, Kalen, now's the time to make a decision on the defensive side of the ball, buddy.
I don't think they would make a difference. I don't think they would make a change mid-season. I think that's something that even despite how iffy it's looked at times, that's not a change they're going to make mid-season. The only change you would see, I think, would be after the regular season ends and then before a bowl game, if there was a change to even be made.
That's what I meant.
Like, okay.
No, I didn't mean like right that minute, but like long term, yeah, buddy, you're going to have to make a change because obviously this does not work.
Yeah.
And I love Malachi's passion. I played with that same type of passion in every sport that I played all of my life. But when he comes out publicly and he kind of threw Kane Womack under the bus, man.
He did a little bit. I'm not going to lie to you. He absolutely, it sounded like he did a little bit.
Ran over him again, dude. Like, I mean, you can't do that. But now's the time, Malachi, where you look next to your brother and you put your hand on his shoulder and you say, we got to come together. We got to do this together. And you put your hand on Kane Womack's shoulder and say, I got you, buddy. Whatever you ask me to do, let's get it done. Malachi, I know you're not listening, but if you are, how much Bama you got in you, boy? Because you're going to have to show me tomorrow. If you got some Bama in you, then you know what to do. You know what we're going to do. We're going to throw down on them.
I love it, Max, man. Do you have a score prediction for tomorrow yet?
Yeah, because here's what I believe. Because I got Bama in me a lot. 45-7, Bama.
I like it, Max. Thank you so much for calling in this morning, man.
Roll Tide, Wyatt.
Right back at you, Max. Man, Max is getting me fired up on a Friday morning here on Tide 100.9 and 1230 WTBC. When we come back from the other side of this break, we'll keep talking Bama, South Carolina. Obviously, we're going to be talking Bama, South Carolina all day long here on this station. I'll talk about it on my show a little bit later this morning as well. We'll continue to take a look at the rest of the top 25 and some of the marquee matchups you got going on this weekend. And Pat in Tuscaloosa, I see you. We'll get you on the phone lines here on Tide 100.9 and 1230 WTBC, your home of Alabama Crimson Tide sports.
Here's what's trending on the Tuscaloosa thread.
Good Friday morning. Former Walker County Jail Corrections Officer Grayson Colin Woods will plead guilty to deprivation of rights under color of law. He's one of 5 officers to enter guilty pleas in the death of 33-year-old inmate Tony Mitchell. He died from hypothermia while in custody in the Walker County Jail in January of 2023. Click TuscaloosaThread.com for more local news, sports, and weather coverage all throughout the day. It's absolutely free. Don Hartley, Town Square Media, Tuscaloosa.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
Tuscaloosa traffic now from the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center. We're looking at a possible accident on Culver Road on that northbound lane just north of 29th Street. It is extremely heavy in the area, and so that's definitely something that will cost you some time. Now, otherwise, traffic on University Boulevard northbound, moderate delays at Dr. Edward H. Drive. Now, this is an accident which they pushed to the right shoulder. With your Tuscaloosa traffic now, Tammy Thomas.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
Our long dry spell continues today. The sky sunny. The high for this afternoon around 80. Clear and cool tonight, the low 52. For tomorrow and Sunday, lots of sunshine both days with warm afternoons. The high tomorrow 82. The high Sunday 85. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 52 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
Did you miss any episode on Tide 100.9? Don't worry. All of our shows can be found on Spotify and Apple Music and on demand on the Tide 100.9 app.
Welcome back to Inside the Locker Room right here on Tide 100.9 and 1230 WTBC, your home of Alabama Crimson Tide sports. Let's head back to the phone lines here and let's talk with our good buddy Pat here in Tuscaloosa. Pat, how you doing today?
Man, it is an absolute pleasure to be able to possibly talk to you 2 times in one day. Hey, tell me about what is going on with having basketball tonight at 8:30. I want to take my grandyoungin to it. He's 4, but I don't know how he's going to make out at 8:30, and then he's going to spend the night, and then we're going to the football game tomorrow at 11 o'clock.
That is,
so it's going to be
that
a
is awesome,
forced march, as they say.
That is awesome, Pat. I remember going to games and doing stuff with my grandfather, and so unfortunately he passed away long ago. But I do remember some things about him, and he'll cherish those memories forever. Even though he's young, he'll cherish those memories forever. And so I'm excited for you. I'm excited for y'all. But tonight, going on inside Coleman Coliseum, you've got the Final Four banner reveal for Alabama men's basketball. As of course, I'm sure all of you remember, Alabama basketball made the Final Four for the first time in program history. In Phoenix, Arizona, the Crimson Tide fell to the UConn Huskies, the eventual national champion UConn Huskies, in the first round of the Final Four. But it was still a really fun environment. It was still a ton of fun to be able to go. I was able to be in Phoenix, Arizona, covering the Alabama Crimson Tide, and then my flight got delayed because I flew a Bobo airline, and so I ended up getting to watch the national championship on Monday night as well. But it was a ton of fun. I was glad, Alabama made it, obviously, but I was also glad I was able to go out and cover it. Tonight inside Coleman Coliseum, they are doing the banner reveal for the Final Four. So they'll hang the banner on the rafters, all this other stuff, and they'll show it off, take pictures. Tickets are $10. So you got to buy a $10 ticket. It's online at rolltide.com, I believe. You buy a $10 ticket. What's it get you? It gets you in the door so you get to see the banner reveal and all the things happening tonight. And we'll get into what's happening tonight at Coleman Coliseum in just a second as well. You'll also get, I believe the first 200 people are getting a commemorative banner and some sort of poster board or something like that with the design on it as well. So that'll be really cool. The $10 ticket gets you in the door tonight. What do you get to see if you get into the door? You've got the banner reveal itself. The banner will go into the rafters inside Coleman Coliseum. And then you will also get to watch a 3-point contest, a dunk contest, and then an exclusive interview with Nate Oates and Chris Stewart as well. So it's going to be a ton of fun. I'm excited to go tonight. We're covering it for the media side of things as well. So I'll be inside Coleman Coliseum tonight. And I'm really excited for it. Oh, you also get to watch a scrimmage. They're going to host an open scrimmage as well. So that's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah. My question, are they going to have any autograph signings as far as, because I've got a basketball with just white and brown and got a script A on it and hadn't been signed yet. So I just was kind of curious about that.
If you will give me 1 second, Pat, I'm pulling up the email I got from the SID of Alabama basketball, and I will let you know if there's an autograph session or anything like that going on there for the Alabama men's basketball.
I do know that the proceeds of this deal goes to Yay Alabama for basketball.
That is correct. So I'm still double checking. Let's see here. Alabama men's basketball Final Four banner reveal presented by Yay Alabama on October 11th. This is from the University of Alabama Athletics. Let's see here. Fans can join Yay Alabama to support Alabama. That's not it. Let's see here. Doors open for Crimson Chaos and Yay Alabama members at 7:30. At 8 p.m., the doors open for the regular public. At 8:30, things begin with team introductions. 8:35, there's a 3-point contest. 8:50, there's a dunk contest. 9:05, the Final Four banner and ring is revealed. 9:10, interview with Chris Stewart and Nate Oates. 9:20, the scrimmage will tip off. Entry begins at 7:30 p.m. For students, go through the west entrance. Yay Alabama members through the east entrance. The first 2,000 fans will receive a replica banner and Final Four poster. It says nothing about autographs here, Pat. I do apologize. I was hoping I could get you an answer on that.
Well, you never know. But that'll be good. It sounds like it's going to be a whole lot of fun and something to do to pass the time on Friday night while we're fretting about what's going to happen tomorrow.
Yeah, I was going to say, rather than sitting around all night waiting to figure out what's going to happen with the football team, we can just go watch basketball because we are less than 20. I think we're vaguely 24 days away from the start of the Alabama men's basketball season. That may be a wrong number.
Yeah,
I think we're like 26 or something like that. We're close. Yeah. We're within the last month. I know that much.
I'm just hoping that he can keep this whole team together. Because being able to have fresh legs that you could switch in and out, good Lord, it sounds like on paper it looks fabulous.
Like you said, on paper it looks great. You know, having Cliff Amore, Grant Nelson, Jaron Stevenson, Nas Cunningham, who else? Darian Reed, Aiden Sherrill. Having all those big men is great. Having all these guys who can play from the 3 to the 5 is great. But when it comes time to actually handing out minutes, it may get a little difficult. You only got so many minutes in a basketball game. And you know certain guys probably aren't coming off the court. Mark Sears, Grant Nelson, Cliff Amore probably. You know, those guys probably are not going to spend much time sitting on the bench. And so now all of a sudden you're running out of spots. You're running out of minutes for guys who probably should be getting minutes.
Oh, yeah.
It's a good problem to have.
Some McDonald's All-Americans.
You're not kidding.
I mean,
it's a good problem to have. Like Nate Oates, I'm sure Nate Oates would rather have this problem than have the problem of who in the world is going to start for me because I can't figure out which one of them is actually good. So I'm sure he'd rather have the problem of, well, daggum, Darian Reed's mad he's not getting enough minutes, but I got all these other guys that I got to deal with as well. So,
yep, sounds good. Hope to see you at Innisfree. Have a great afternoon.
Have a great one, Pat. Thank you so much for calling in. That was Pat here in Tuscaloosa. We're going to go ahead and go to break here. When we come back, we may talk a little bit about Alabama basketball and kind of what they got coming up this season, as I believe media days are coming around the corner here as well in just a couple of literally like next week for Alabama basketball. So that's going to be fun. And then, like I said, the season gets started November 4th inside Coleman Coliseum against UNC Asheville. And we'll have all that and more coverage for you right here on Tide 100.9 and 1230 WTBC, your home of Alabama Crimson Tide Sports.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
Tuscaloosa traffic now from the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center. We're looking at a possible accident on Culver Road on that northbound lane just north of 29th Street. It is extremely heavy in the area, and so that's definitely something that will cost you some time. Now, otherwise, traffic on University Boulevard northbound, moderate delays at Dr. Edward H. Drive. Now, this is an accident which they pushed to the right shoulder. With your Tuscaloosa traffic now, Tammy Thomas.
Road tripping, business travel, or bringing your car in for repairs. All great reasons to rent a Toyota at Tuscaloosa Toyota. You can rent the latest Toyota models for a day, a week, or a weekend. Every Toyota rental-car comes with 24 hours roadside assistance and is backed by an entire team of people you know and trust. Rent a Toyota and let's go places. Reserving yours is a breeze at TuscaloosaToyota.com.
100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
Our long dry spell continues today. The sky's sunny. The high for this afternoon around 80. Clear and cool tonight, the low 52. For tomorrow and Sunday, lots of sunshine both days with warm afternoons. The high tomorrow 82, the high Sunday 85. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 52 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
Two-time state champion and two-time NIT champion, Barry Sanderson breaks down the latest in sports on Inside the Locker Room on Tide 100.9.
Welcome back, T-Town. Nope, wrong show. Inside the Locker Room on Tide 100.9 and 1230 WTBC. Sorry, I completely forgot what time it was. Didn't realize it was still 7:34 in the morning, and I thought I was on my show. Sorry about that. We're inside the Locker Room right here on Tide 100.9. Do you guys ever wonder what radio show hosts do in the middle of these ad breaks? I mean, that was like a 3.5 minute long commercial break here, Chase. Do you guys ever wonder what radio show hosts do during these ad breaks? Are we researching stats to bring you more information? Are we looking at betting lines? Are we talking with people behind the scenes? No. I just watched a 4-minute video of all 100 touchdowns in Derrick Henry's career in the NFL. So that's what I was doing for the last 4 minutes. We like to have fun around here. And so it was a ton of fun getting to talk with Pat in the last segment. If you guys want to join in on the conversation, 205-342-9904 is the number for the program. We're going to keep moving on, though, as we're going to keep talking about some of the games going on this weekend. Alabama and South Carolina. The Crimson Tide are currently a 21-point favorite. The over-under is 50.5 points for the Crimson Tide and the Gamecocks on Saturday. That game will kick off at 11 a.m. Central Time right here inside Bryant-Denny Stadium in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. If you guys want to listen to the game, you should download that Tide 100.9 app. And why am I plugging the Tide 100.9 app? Because not only can you listen to your favorite shows, your favorite show hosts, you know, Martin Houston at 6 a.m., Wimp and Barry normally in this time slot from 7 to 9 a.m., Gary Harris from 9 to 11, myself from 11 to noon, Christian and Corey Miller from noon until 2, Ryan Fowler with the game from 2 until 6, and then Stingray as well from 6 to 7. You can listen to all of those shows, send in your app messages, talk with your favorite show hosts as well. You can even call from the app. I didn't realize that. There's a button there that says, this also shows how much I pay attention because I've been working here almost a year now. There's a button there that says call us now. And if you click that button, it calls the station and you can join in. You can talk on the app. So again, shows how much I've been paying attention. I just jump on that app and make sure all my stories are published the way they're supposed to be. Speaking of stories, you can also read all of our content from Tide 100.9 right there on that free app. Chase is writing stories. I write like 20 a week. Jackson writes a bunch of Bama in the NFL stories. Jaisha does a couple of good things. Who are Jackson and Jaisha? There are other producers. Jackson produces the Game with Ryan Fowler. Jaisha will help with the Game with Ryan Fowler and then helps us produce some of our odd shows. And what I mean by odd shows, I mean Hillcrest Huddle on Tuesday nights. I mean the Martin Houston High School preview on Thursday nights. I'm talking about those shows. Some of the shows that are outside of the regular hours, Jaisha helps us out with those there. And then not only do Chase, Jaisha, Jackson, and myself put out a bunch of stories, we've got an incredible team of interns here at Tide 100.9. We've got, let me just run through the names of all of our interns real quick, because if I try to do it from memory, someone's going to get mad because I will have completely missed somebody. We've got Kai Jones, CJ Duke, Cole Lucas, Corliss Dukes, Micah Nichols, Ryan Bond, Sam Sodergren, and Simon Besnoy. They all do an incredible job putting out multiple stories per week, helping you guys stay up to date with not only the Alabama Crimson Tide football, basketball, baseball, softball teams, women's basketball in there as well, but also high school football around West Alabama. Tonight in the high school football ranks, you've got a big matchup. Who am I talking about? Hillcrest Patriots versus the Thompson Warriors. This is the game that everybody has circled and said, hey, look, when Hillcrest makes the 7A jump, that's the game we want to see. Hillcrest made the 7A jump this year and immediately got slapped in the face with, you're going to play Thompson. No, we're not easing you into this thing. You got Hoover. You got Thompson. You got Hewitt. Right? These are the big time programs in Central, or in 7A in Central Birmingham, in Central Alabama. We got a big one tonight, and I'm excited to cover that as well. Continuing on with the app as well, you can listen to Alabama football, baseball, and basketball on the Tide 100.9 app. So, do you like listening to Chris Stewart? Do you like hearing Tyler Watts, Damian Square, and Roger Hoover? And then the postgame show with our good buddy Christian Miller as well. Well, guess what? You can do that right there on that Tide 100.9 app. So be sure to download that app. Be sure to stay up to date on the Alabama Crimson Tide. Subscribe to our newsletter as well. I'm the one in charge of sending that out, so if it's a little spotty some days, I do apologize. I normally try to get that out by a certain time period, but I'm young. I'm forgetful. And so sometimes I will forget to do that. But if you subscribe to the newsletter, we'll keep sending you all of our great stories here from Tide 100.9. Moving on, you've got Clemson and Wake Forest. Clemson, number 10 in the country, 4-1, 3-0 in the ACC. Wake Forest, 2-3, 1-1 in the ACC. Clemson, a 20.5 point favorite. The over/under is set at 61.5 in this football game. Give me the Tigers. Clemson's going to steamroll Wake Forest. Wake Forest is a very struggling football team, unfortunately, for many, many people involved in Wake Forest. They're a struggling football program. And Clemson's got a good schedule. And by good, I mean easy. There's a chance Clemson wins out this schedule here. At Wake Forest, against Virginia, against Louisville, at Virginia Tech, at Pitt, the Citadel, and South Carolina. The only game here I really would say, yeah, Clemson may have a problem is Pitt. And they don't play Pitt until November 16th. So go ahead, pencil in Clemson in the ACC championship game against more than likely the Miami Hurricanes. And that's the winner of that game gets a bye heading into the first round of the college football playoffs. The loser of that game will host a playoff game because as of right now, it would be one-loss Clemson versus undefeated Miami. Well, if Miami wins, Miami obviously remains undefeated and goes on to the college football playoff. If Clemson wins, they knock off an undefeated team. Clemson gets the bye, and Miami has to host a playoff game down there in Coral Gables. So we'll see. I'm excited for this season. I'm excited for the college football playoff, but I am by no means wishing this season away. I was texting Chase. I was texting our producers yesterday morning saying, hey, we've only got 7 games left in the regular season. I sent out the production schedule and said, hard to believe we're already halfway through the season. 7 regular season games are left, and we're about to put one in the rearview mirror now, because Alabama kicks off tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. I almost said 6 a.m. That's when the pregame show starts. So Alabama starts at 11 a.m. As you can probably tell, I don't normally do early morning shows, so I'm a little out of my flow. I'm a little out of my rhythm right now.
It's always a first for everything, and you're doing a good job. So keep it going. You got this.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm a little out of my flow. I'm a little out of my rhythm right now. It's fine. We'll evaluate the game tape. We'll get better, and we'll rebound, and we'll try to do better at 11 a.m. this morning when I jump on the air for my show. Alabama and South Carolina. Jalen Milroe leading all passers in this game. 1,274 yards, 11 touchdowns, 2 picks. Before Georgia, it was no picks, but Jalen Milroe has thrown an interception in each of the last 2 contests for the Crimson Tide. I expect Alabama to get a good rebound win here, but there are paths to success for South Carolina. South Carolina's going to have to run this football and shorten this game. They're going to have to play the Vanderbilt game plan. No, I'm not talking about a triple option, but I'm talking about keeping Alabama's sideline keeping Alabama's offense on the sideline, not Alabama's sideline on the offense. Keeping Alabama's offense on the sideline. That's what Vanderbilt did. How do you stop one of the best offenses in the country? You don't let them on the field. You leave them on the sideline. And so South Carolina's got a running quarterback, got a great running back in Rocket Sanders. And that's going to be, and that could be the difference. If South Carolina is able to pull off the upset of the Alabama Crimson Tide inside Bryant-Denny Stadium, it's going to be the run game. They're going to have to run this football. They cannot they cannot let Alabama play with the lead. That's how Alabama, quite frankly, strangles the life out of their opponents with these games this season. They get up with the lead, and then their offense is in rhythm. So now their offense is chewing clock, and then your team has to now throw the ball, which is what Alabama wants you to do. Alabama wants you to throw this football because they trust that secondary. They trust those young corners. They trust Malachi Moore and Keon Sabb and Devontae Smith to make the plays that need to be made in order to stop you on the offensive side of the football. Now, granted, when Alabama's firing on all cylinders, what does it look like? It looks like the first half of that Georgia game where Alabama was up 30-7 at halftime, and Kane Womack is sending 0 blitzes and DB pressures and blitzing linebackers and dropping out defensive ends and all this other fun jazz, all this other fun stuff, and confusing the mess out of your quarterback. That's what Alabama wants you to do. Alabama wants to get up with the lead, make you throw the football, make you think you have to throw the football, so Kane Womack can bring some exotic pressures. Kane Womack can bring a lot of extra stuff, confuse a quarterback, especially a guy like LaNorris Sellers. And I'm not trashing LaNorris Sellers. I'm saying he doesn't have the NFL caliber play recognition or breakdown ability that a guy like Jalen Milroe's got, that a guy like Carson Beck's got, Quinn Ewers, Shedeur Sanders, Jackson Dart. What do all 5 of those quarterbacks have in common? They're the top quarterbacks on the NFL draft board right now, because they have the ability to make plays. They have the ability to put a team on their back and say, you are not losing this football game because I am going to carry you to victory. And they've all done it before as well. They've all done it before. And so that's what Alabama's going to need to do. Alabama's going to need to get up with the lead early, make South Carolina feel like they have to throw the football, thereby eliminating one of their best offensive weapons in Rocket Sanders. And then they're going to have to trust the young defensive backs, the young secondary, to get things done on that side of the ball as well. We're going to go to break here. When we come back, actually, I will say I pick Alabama to win. Chase, are you picking against the Crimson Tide?
Honestly, I've never been more nervous to pick against South Carolina because there's just so many factors, and I'm still kind of processing Vanderbilt. Like, it's still
we all are.
I don't know. It's just weird to me. I do have Alabama winning. I'm not comfortable with the score right now, but I do see Alabama winning this game. I just don't think LaNorris Sellers is that good. I think he showed his weaknesses against Ole Miss. I'm just not confident in him, and I just got you have Jalen Milroe. Like, who's going to bet against that? No matter who the team is, Georgia, Vanderbilt, he has played out of his mind.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, roll Tide.
RTR, we're both picking Alabama and Jalen Milroe. I picked Milroe to win the Heisman at the start of the year. For about a week there, he was the favorite. For about a whole week, a good 7 days, he was the betting favorite to win the Heisman Trophy. Now he's not. Now I want to say it's Ashton Jeanty from Boise State, the superstar, like the absolute stud running back who's gotten more yards after contact than any other running back's got in college football. We talked about him a little bit yesterday morning as well. Regardless, I still think Jalen Milroe has a chance to win the Heisman Trophy. I still think Jalen Milroe's got a chance to end up in New York for the Heisman Trophy ceremony. But first, Alabama's got to deal with South Carolina. I'm picking the Crimson Tide. Chase is picking the Crimson Tide. We're going to go to break. When we come back, we're going to get into some of the meat and potatoes of this weekend as we begin to talk about the Red River rivalry. Penn State and USC. That's not what the Red River rivalry is. That's just a different game that's going on as well. Florida and Tennessee, Oregon and Ohio State, and LSU and Ole Miss. We'll keep talking about it right here. Tide 100.9, 1230 WTBC, your home of Alabama Crimson Tide Sports.
Go inside the Alabama Crimson Tide with the Gary Harris Show.
Friday morning at 9 a.m., it's the TGIF edition of the Gary Harris Show, coming to you live from Innisfree Irish Pub on University Boulevard as part of our Fridays at the Free. We're going to have guests. We're going to have our Bama football trivia giveaway, SEC point spread predictions, and a whole lot more. It's always fun on Fridays at the Free. The Gary Harris Show, Friday morning at 9 a.m.
Catch the Gary Harris Show Monday through Friday, 9 to 11 a.m. on Tide 100.9 and Tide100.9.com.
Tide 100.9 Traffic.
Tuscaloosa traffic now from the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center. Looks like we've got a little trouble on Skyland Boulevard now. And this is between Jaybird Road and Ken Seeley Drive. Otherwise, the rest of the roadways are still moving very smooth, and we're in prime time now. I will say this, you do have some intersections logos, not much, but on McFarland eastbound onto Lurleen Wallace, you can expect to hit those brakes. Then once that stoplight turns green, you are all good to go. With your Tuscaloosa traffic now, I'm Tammy.
Our daughter Jessie loves playing detective.
A clue.
But since we discovered she has sensitive skin, we've been playing detective too.
We thought the problem was our puppy.
But it was actually our old detergent.
Aha.
So we switched to Tide Free and Gentle. Tide cleans better than the leading competitive free detergent, and it doesn't leave behind irritating residues.
Plus, Tide Free and Gentle has no dyes or perfumes, so it's gentle on her skin.
Case closed.
If it's got to be clean, it's got to be Tide Free and Gentle.
Road tripping, business travel, or bringing your car in for repairs. All great reasons to rent a Toyota at Tuscaloosa Toyota. You can rent the latest Toyota models for a day, a week, or a weekend. Every Toyota rental-car comes with 24 hours roadside assistance and is backed by an entire team of people you know and trust. Rent a Toyota and let's go places. Reserving yours is a breeze at Tuscaloosa Toyota.
The Humana Honor Medicare Advantage Plan gives you $1,680 back each year in your Social Security check. Choose coverage that helps you keep more money in your pocket. Learn more at GetHumana.com. Humana, a more human way to healthcare. The Part B Give Back benefit pays part or all of your Part B premium, and the amount may change based on the amount you pay for Part B. Limitations and restrictions may apply. Humana is a Medicare Advantage HMO and PPO organization with a Medicare contract. Enrollment in any Humana plan depends on contract renewal.
Want to jump into any of the shows? Call Tide 100.9 right now at 205-342-9904.
Will somebody answer that damn phone?
That's 205-342-9904.
We're getting ready to wrap up the first hour of Inside the Locker Room. I want to thank Wimp and Barry Sanderson for allowing me to step in for them this morning and yesterday morning as well. I filled in for Barry as well. So thank you, Wimp and Barry. I don't know if you guys are listening. I imagine probably not because Wimp is playing in a golf tournament right now. And so it's going to be a lot of fun. I know they're having fun. I know they're getting stuff done right there. They're always hard at work. Be sure to support Wimp and Barry Sanderson. I wanted to lead the second hour of this show with this game, but I look up at the TV and ESPN's talking about it, so I'm going to talk about it. Oregon and Ohio State. It literally just changed, Chase. I'm not crazy. Like, I'm not blind. I can see now they're talking about LSU and Ole Miss. We'll open the second half of the show with that game as well, as the spread has jumped a little bit in that game. Ole Miss was a 3-point favorite yesterday. Ole Miss is now a 3.5-point favorite over LSU. Whoop-de-doo, the spread has quote-unquote jumped. It did move up a little bit. Oregon and Ohio State. Ohio State is a 3-point favorite over the Oregon Ducks. Number 2, Ohio State, heading to Autzen Stadium in Eugene, Oregon. The Ducks, number 3 in the country, 5-0, 2-0 in the Big Ten. Ohio State, same thing, 5-0, 2-0 in the Big Ten. This is going to be a game. A lot of people are predicting these quarterbacks to have superstar stats. I'm actually going to flip this script a little bit. I think this is about the defense. This is not about the quarterbacks. This is not about the offense. This is about the defense and who these guys have on the defensive side of the ball. We know what Ohio State's got on the defensive side. All right. Caleb Downs, the safety that nobody wants to talk about anymore because he was a freshman All-American here at the University of Alabama. Nick Saban retires, and Caleb Downs left in a little bit of an odd light. Like, it was kind of assumed he was going to transfer, and then the rumors were floating out that he was going to stay, and then literally the day that it came out that, Caleb Downs is probably going to stay at Alabama, Caleb Downs makes a post and says, hey, I'm going to make an announcement tomorrow, or my decision is going to be made, tomorrow or whatever, 2 days from now. And everybody starts to go nuts. Everybody starts thinking, well, crap, is he staying? Is he going? What's going to happen here? And Caleb Downs decides to leave the University of Alabama, enter the transfer portal, and transfer to Ohio State University. Ohio State opened this game as a 3.5-point favorite. The spread is now down to 3 points. Ohio State is a 3-point favorite. And remember, guys, with these betting lines, you get 3 points for being the home team. So Oregon automatically got 3 points in their favor for being the home team when playing against Ohio State, which means if this game was played in Columbus, Ohio, in the Buckeye home state, then Ohio State would be a 6-point favorite right now, a touchdown favorite over the Oregon Ducks, but they are not. They're in Autzen Stadium in Eugene, Oregon. Ohio State now a 3-point favorite. The over-under is set at 54.5. I think this is going to be a defensive battle, right? I believe Ohio State still got Jack Sawyer and JTT. I think his name is JT Tuimaleava. Not Tuimaleava, Tuimaleava. And so those are the two premier edge rushers for the Ohio State Buckeyes. On the Oregon side of things, they've got a really good pass rusher in Jordan Burch, who came over from South Carolina via the transfer portal. Both these teams are starting a transfer quarterback, and these quarterbacks they're putting up good numbers. Will Howard's got 1,200 passing yards, 12 touchdowns, 3 picks. Dylan Gabriel's got 1,400 passing yards, 11 touchdowns, 3 picks. So these guys are playing good. They may not be playing quite to the level that a lot of Ohio State and Oregon fans maybe wanted them to be. But Chase, kind of give me your thoughts on this game and give me your winner. Do you have Oregon pulling off the upset, or do you have Ohio State running the table, at least in this game? Maybe not for the rest of the season, but this game.
I've kind of wrestled back and forth a little bit. Oregon has a high potent offense. They found their groove ever since that little debacle they had early in the season. Dan Lanning is a great coach. I'm able to watch him when the Pac-12 was still alive.
R.I.P. the Pac-12.
R.I.P. But then you got Ohio State. They have a potent offense as well. They have a breakout star, wide receiver positions. I forgot his name.
Jeremiah Smith, who may be, I know we love Ryan Williams around here. Don't get me wrong. I think he's one of the best freshmen in the country. But Jeremiah Smith's right there. They're like 1A, 1B in this scenario.
It's weird. You see one play by Ryan and then the other play from Ohio State. And it's just back and forth. Who can outdo each other a little bit? It's crazy. But nevertheless, I do have Ohio State pulling off an upset. I just feel like Ohio State is more the complete team. I feel like Oregon, they're in these positions where they can go far, but then they have that one game they're No, we're gonna crap the bed, and we're gonna do that because every year they do this. I'm not on the hype train right now with Oregon. I feel like they're high potent, but they're not like that team that can go further down the line. I feel like Ohio State can do that this year.
I am a Dan Lanning fan. I do like Dan Lanning, the head coach at the University of Oregon, or is it Oregon University? The head coach at Oregon, I will say. I like Dillon Gabriel. Matter of fact, in the preseason, I picked Dillon Gabriel to be in New York. Maybe not winning the award, but I picked Dillon Gabriel to go to New York for the Heisman Trophy ceremony. That may not happen, but Dillon Gabriel's still a good quarterback. And Oregon's got a lot of great weapons on this offense, right? You've got James, the running back, who's got 552 yards, 5 touchdowns this season. You've got Tez Johnson, who I think is one of the better players in college football here. Not only do they have Tez Johnson, but they've also got a slew of other really, really strong football players as well. You've got Trayshawn Holden, who made a really impressive laying down catch last week against Michigan State. They've also got Terrence Ferguson, the tight end, 259 yards receiving on the season. They've got 5 receivers right now at over 100 yards on the season. Now, granted, we're like 6 games, or they're about to play game number 6 for both these teams. They're 5 games into the season, so over 100 yards at this point isn't necessarily super stellar, super impressive, but it is still a good number to kind of benchmark right now. Once again, they've got 5 receivers, Oregon does, with over 100 yards on the season. Tez Johnson leads the crew with 395 yards and 5 touchdowns. Trayshawn Holden, number 2, with 274 yards and 3 touchdowns. Why are we talking about Trayshawn Holden? Because he used to play at the University of Alabama. He was one of the wide receivers catching passes from Heisman winner Bryce Young during that season. Terrence Ferguson, once again, the tight end, number 3, 259 yards, no touchdowns yet on the season. This may be a game where he can get involved because Ohio State's going to be so focused on Tez Johnson, Trayshawn Holden, and Evan Stewart, the superstar wide receiver transfer from Texas A&M. Hasn't quite gotten off to the start that he may have hoped at Oregon. 16 catches, 182 yards, and 2 touchdowns for Evan Stewart. But this is a very high potent offense. This is a very electric offense for the Oregon Ducks, not the Ohio State Buckeyes. Ohio State's also got a really strong offense as well. The Quinshon Judkins, Travion Henderson, both heading up that backfield for Ohio State. And, of course, Jeremiah Smith and Emeka Egbuka. You always forget about Egbuka until about mid-season, and then he pops off, and it's like, where the heck did this kid come from? Oh, that's right. He's a junior. He's a senior at Ohio State now. He's a senior, at least at Ohio State, and he's one of the premier playmakers in that Ohio State offense. He was last year, and he is returning to form this year as well, I believe. On my show, T-Town Sports Daily on Tide 100.9, I always do this game simulator prediction, right? It was undefeated predicting Alabama basketball and Alabama football until freaking last week. And I tweeted it out. I said, if you would have told me Vanderbilt was the team that was going to kill the Sims perfect record, I'd have called you a flat-out liar because I thought it would have been Georgia because it predicted Bama to beat Georgia. So the Sim is now 4-1 predicting Alabama games this season. I believe it's like 10-1 overall right now. The Sim likes the Ducks. Oregon 24, Ohio State 18, says the simulation. The average score is actually an Ohio State win. Oregon's average score is 28.5 to 27.4 in favor of Ohio State. Oregon won 48% of the time. Ohio State won 52% of the time. Give me the Ducks to upset the Ohio State Buckeyes this weekend. We'll keep talking about it. We'll keep talking about Ole Miss, LSU, Alabama, South Carolina, and your phone calls right here on the other side of this top of the hour break. Tide 100.9, 1230 WTBC, your home of Alabama Crimson Tide Sports.
WTBC Tuscaloosa and W265CG Tuscaloosa, a Town Square media station. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
From the Fox Sports Studios in Los Angeles,
Here's Eddie Garcia.
Week 6 in the NFL got underway with Thursday Night Football in Seattle, an NFC West clash as the 49ers outscored the Seahawks 36-24. San Francisco quarterback Brock Purdy had 255 yards passing and 3 touchdowns, had a 76-yard strike to wide receiver Deebo Samuel, and 2 TD passes to tight end George Kittle. San Francisco's 3-3 with the win. Seattle's 3-3 with the loss, their 3rd loss in a row. Postseason baseball, Yankees eliminate the Royals with a 3-1 win in Kansas City. New York starting pitcher Garrett Cole went 7 innings, allowed 1 run on 6 hits in the win, while Juan Soto and Giancarlo Stanton each drove in runs. New York takes a series 3-1 to advance to the American League Championship Series. Guardians stay alive with a 5-4 win over the Tigers in Detroit. Cleveland's David Fry had a pinch hit 2-run homer, then a squeeze bunt in the 9th inning that would bring across what would eventually be the game-winning run. That series is tied at 2-2. A deciding Game 5 will be Saturday in Cleveland.
It's the Tide 100.9 30K Workday Payday. Woo! Win cash every weekday 8 to 5. Here's this hour's cash code.
177. Again, that's 177. The code is 177.
Enter that code now on the Tide 100.9 app. Click on the 30K Payday button and enter the code for a chance to win $30,000. Inside the Locker Room with former Crimson Tide basketball coach Wimp Sanderson and his son, former SEC and ACC assistant basketball coach Barry Sanderson. It's time to take you inside the locker room on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Welcome back to Inside the Locker Room. If you're just now joining the program, as it is 8 a.m., well, it's 8:06 technically. If you're just now joining the program, I am obviously not Wimp Sanderson, and I am not Barry Sanderson. Who am I? I am Wyatt Fulton, brand manager here of Tide 100.9. Chase and I are holding down the fort here, talking about all things college football as we're taking a peek behind the curtain to the rest of the college football world today. And we have also talked a little bit of Alabama and South Carolina. Let's go back to Alabama and South Carolina really quick. All right. Alabama's offense held the ball for 17 minutes and 52 seconds against the Vanderbilt Commodores. And yet, they still scored 35 points and were in a position and would have been in a position to score a game-winning touchdown had Alabama's defense been able to get a stop there in the 4th quarter. Alabama had 3 timeouts and the 2-minute timeout, and yet Vanderbilt completely ran out the clock on the Crimson Tide, stormed the field. I posted it to my X account and my TikTok as well. I'm getting a little bit more active on my TikTok account as well. So if you guys want to shoot me a follow there, it's just, Wyatt Fulton 8 on the TikTok page. And it's also at FultonW_ on the Twitter/X account. I would greatly appreciate you guys shooting me a follow there. I've also been active on my Facebook as well. It's just Wyatt Fulton, just my name on Facebook as well. If you guys want to stay up to date, I am not only a show host here, not only because I host my own show from 11 to noon every single day. I am not only the brand manager of Tide 100.9. I am not only the digital managing editor. I wear a lot of hats around here in case y'all couldn't tell. I'm not only the digital managing editor, brand manager, and show host. I'm also the beat reporter for the University of Alabama. So I'm traveling to these games. I will be in Knoxville, Tennessee next weekend for Alabama's rivalry game, the 3rd Saturday of October. On there as well in Knoxville, Tennessee next weekend. But this weekend, we're talking about Alabama and South Carolina. The Crimson Tide once again held the ball for 17 minutes and 52 seconds on the offensive side of the ball against the Vanderbilt Commodores. Alabama would have had a chance to score a game-winning touchdown if the defense could have gotten a stop. The defense did not get a stop, and so Alabama did not have a chance at scoring a game-winning touchdown against the Vanderbilt Commodores. So what are some of the things that Alabama can be taken advantage of on the offensive side of the ball? Here's what South Carolina head coach Shane Beamer had to say about taking advantage of Alabama's offense this upcoming Saturday against the Crimson Tide.
I mean, there's a lot of stuff that Vandy put on tape that, frankly, we do in the run game as well. So there's certain things. Now, you also got to say to yourself, okay, Vandy had some success against them doing this, so is Alabama going to line up the exact same way and do the same thing? You don't know. But we're going to be who we are and do what we do. But there's certainly, like any game, whether it be the Vanderbilt game or the Western Kentucky and South Florida games that they played this year, there's going to be things that we see on tape that we feel like have a chance to be successful, that fit us, that we'll implement. But certainly Vandy did a really good job of moving the ball. They did an awesome job of protecting the football. They did an awesome job of converting on third down. I think they were 12 of 18, David. So I'd like to copy that for sure, their ability to stay on the field and score points. But they had a really good plan. But I think the biggest thing is Vandy played really, really hard and really, really physical against them as well.
Calling an audible there because Shane Beamer was talking about his offense, not necessarily the Alabama offense. So what can South Carolina do to take advantage of Alabama's defense? South Carolina's offense, keep Bama on the sideline. Don't let Jalen Milroe get into a rhythm. Don't let them find Ryan Williams down the field. Don't let Jam Miller and Justice Haynes get cooking on the offensive side of the football. Don't let C.J. Dupree. I mean, hell, Alabama's been using its tight ends way more this year than they have in the past, at least since a guy like Irv Smith was in this program. I mean, even a guy like O.J. Howard, in the national championship game against Clemson twice. It's been a minute since Alabama's had a tight end being used quite like the level that Alabama was relying on C.J. Dupree, not only against Georgia, but also against Vanderbilt. Jalen Miller had a beautiful ball up the seam to C.J. Dupree for a first down earlier in that football game against the Vanderbilt Commodores. That's a lot of stuff that South Carolina's going to have to do to stop the Alabama offense. But you know how you do it? You keep Bama on the sideline. You keep Jalen Milroe pacing that sideline. You keep Ryan Williams looking at that little iPad tablet that they got over there on the sideline. Don't let Alabama's offense get on the field.
I was going to ask you this too. With how fast they've been scoring, do you think it's important to maybe just have a different game plan or just continue scoring at a high rate? Because as much as the time possession has been, a disadvantage for us, right, it may stop like the scoring when it comes to that. So do you slow down the offense and maybe have a bigger time of possession, or do you continue scoring at a high rate and then depend on your defense? I think it all just kind of depends on game flow, and I know that's a little bit of a cop-out answer, but at the same time, you don't want to change kind of the rhythm of the offense. If the offense is built to go, and score touchdowns in 4 minutes or less, maybe 3 minutes or less or something like that, yeah, it sucks. Your defense is going to be tired, but if that's what the offense is doing, if that's how the offense stays in rhythm, you let them do it. Now, if the offense can stay in rhythm, can get things going, can stay hot with an 8-9 minute drive, then you let them do that as well. So it's kind of depending on how the offense is flowing, right? If the offense is relying on the big play, well, obviously you don't want to eliminate that big play because then it may shut your offense down and you may get cold on the offensive side of the ball. And then God forbid you need a score and your offense is ice cold. We saw that in the Georgia game as well. Alabama needed to score and the offense was ice cold. I mean, it was like sitting in Alaska in January is what it was like. And so it just kind of depends. It's the game flow. It's the game flow of the offense. If the offense is hot, if the offense is scoring at a high clip, you let them score at a high clip. And if the offense is taking 6-7 minutes off the clock every single drive, you let them. It just all kind of depends. And so I think that's what Alabama's got to do. Just kind of, feel out the game a little bit. Let them figure out kind of what's going on. Let them figure out kind of what's happening here. And then you just kind of not necessarily let Jalen Milroe decide. Don't have Jalen Milroe decide kind of what it's supposed to be. But at the same time, if you look at Jalen and say, look, guys, or look, man, are you comfortable with us slowing this game down, or would you rather us just go? And you let Jalen decide without exactly letting Jalen decide, because you have a plan for both. You have an idea how to do all of it as well. But it is going to be interesting. It is going to be
certainly interesting. I think this time of possession thing can come back to bite Alabama if they're not careful, if we're not careful. Talking about Alabama, because it puts the defense on the field a lot. It puts them in a lot of situations, and it's great and it's bad at the same time. Because it's great because your young players, right? Think about how many young players Alabama's got on this defense, right? Any of the corners outside of Damani Jackson, Deshaun Jones, you've got Deshaun Jones, Xavier Brown, Jalen Mbakwe, Zay Mincy, Jaleel Hurley. Those 5 guys are all young DBs. They're all still learning, still growing, and then some more than others. Xavier Brown's been the starter for Alabama since he stepped foot. Maybe not since he stepped foot, but since spring ball started there. And so since spring ball started at the University of Alabama, so the defense being on the field for so long is good in one sense, because it's allowing your young players to get a lot more reps, right? And when we go to break here in just a second, I'm going to pull this up and see how many snaps Alabama's defense has played, so that way we know, okay, well, they've played 327 snaps. I have no idea if that's the actual number. I may go buy a lottery ticket if I just pegged that number off the top of my head. Let's say they played 327 snaps, right? Okay, well, vaguely that means probably Xavier Brown has played maybe 300 snaps. And so that's game reps. That is experience that he's getting, and that's what you want. You want him to develop at a faster rate because you need him to develop at a faster rate, right? But at the same time, he gets tired because he's a human being. He plays football, so he's going to get tired. So the more snaps he's out there for a game, the more tired he's going to be, the more mentally stressed he's going to be, because now he's having to make the proper decisions, the proper reads, and play physical football while being tired. And so it's a test. So it depends on the player, right? A guy like Xavier Brown, you probably want him out there for that many snaps. A guy like Malachi Moore, you probably are okay with him being out there that many snaps. Now your linebackers, that may be a little bit of a different story, not because they don't need the reps, or not because they, are bad players, but they're flying around a lot as well. They're the ones laying the hammer. They're the ones that are, pinning their ears back and pass rushing. So that puts wear and tear on their bodies as well. So it just kind of depends. Like I see both sides of the argument. Number one, you want your young players to develop, so you want them to play more snaps, but at the same time, if they play more snaps, because they're so young, they're going to be in more positions to make mistakes. They're going to be in more positions to give up a big play. And so it all just kind of depends. Like if they're flashing more, like if they are flashing good plays more than they're flashing bad plays, I would say you probably want them on the field more, because that allows them to develop, that allows them to become better football players. But if they're showing more bad plays than good plays, then you want them on the sideline, because you don't want to give the opposing offense a chance to take advantage of a guy who's making mistakes, right? So it all just kind of depends on kind of where we're sitting, how things are looking at. I would say this Alabama defense, because they're so young, you want them on the field, but also because they're so thin at secondary, you want them off the field. So it's a balancing act. I think a team like South Carolina, it's good to leave them. It's good to have them on the field for a while in games like this, in games where Alabama's a big favorite. Alabama's, knock on wood, probably gonna beat the brakes off of them. This is the game that you want those guys out there. This is a game that you want to say, hey, look, this is a learning game. This is a growing game. Now, next week in Knoxville, Tennessee, no, you want them to stay on the sideline, because Tennessee's offense is so high-powered, so prolific. Nico Iamaleava is so good, as well as head coach Josh Heupel and his offensive scheme, so good that they can take advantage of these young guys. They can pick on the young players, and they can make them make mistakes. And so it all just kind of depends. I think this is the game that you want the defense on the field a little bit more, because once again, it's a growing experience. It's a learning experience. It's a new quarterback that they haven't played yet. At Lenore Sellers, every quarterback brings their own unique style to the game. Like Diego Pavia doesn't play or plays like Johnny Manziel. We haven't seen a Johnny Manziel since Johnny Manziel in 2012, right? So that's a new style of ball that they had to watch. Carson Beck, nobody that they're going to see on the rest of their schedule except maybe Nico, maybe Brady Cook plays the same style as Carson Beck. And so now that they've seen Carson Beck, they can look for tendencies in other players. They can look for tendencies, see what these guys do that's similar to what Carson Beck does and say, okay, how did we stop Beck? Oh, we did this. Okay, well, Brady Cook, who plays ball a similar style to Carson Beck, not the same, but similar to Carson Beck. We think this might work. We think we know what we're doing in this aspect. And so it all just kind of depends. I think this is, like I said, I think this is a game that you want the defense on the field a little bit more. Now, next week in Knoxville, absolutely not. Keep Nico, keep Tennessee's offense on the sideline, and Alabama's going to want to run not a Vanderbilt style offense because you want to obviously, have a very prolific, you want to do what you're able to do well, and Alabama hasn't run a triple option yet, so why implement something new for a rivalry game on the road like that? But you want to keep Tennessee on the sideline, and I know we're talking about Tennessee, but it's South Carolina week. I promise we'll get back to South Carolina here in just a second. But that's the game that you want your defense to stay on the sideline, because it decreases the amount of chances that Tennessee has to take advantage of mistakes. South Carolina, probably not the same team that can take advantage of those same mistakes. So I think this is the game that you want the defense on the field a little bit more. We're going to go to break. When we come back, we got an app message, and we'll hear from our good buddy Philip right here on Tide 100.9 and 1230 WTBC, your home of Alabama Crimson Tide Sports.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
Tuscaloosa traffic now from the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center. We're starting to tighten up a little more at our popular intersection of, you guessed it, Lurleen Wallace and McFarland Boulevard, with McFarland being the heaviest on the eastbound lanes. And then you move a little on the slower side on 43, not too much here, but 43 on the southbound lanes to McFarland. That's just a little stop and go. Tap on the brakes is all you have to worry about for now. With your Tuscaloosa traffic now, I'm Tammy Thomas.
Most tax pros leave a message.
It's Jane. I'm moving on to a TurboTax expert who beat your price. Adam Devine, tell him how I feel.
Hey, tax pro, she's been thinking twice. Best believe TurboTax will beat your price. This is a tax break.
Switch to a TurboTax Live expert and we'll beat what you paid your pro last tax season. Make the switch at TurboTax.com/beatyourprice. TurboTax full service only. Sign up by 12/20/2024 and file by 4/1/2025. Full details at TurboTax.com/beatyourprice.
From the University of Alabama, this is Crimson Tide Today. It's a daily update on Bama sports, and it's brought to you by Guthrie's. America's original chicken finger restaurant is an official partner of the Alabama Crimson Tide. For franchise information, visit Guthrie'sChicken.com. Hello again, everybody. I'm Roger Hoover. On yesterday's edition of Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR, we were joined by Alabama running back Justice Haynes.
Just trusting the process, coming in, it was always just preparing each and every week, each and every day. Like I was RB1, even if whatever the depth chart said, just trusting God, trusting that he had a plan for me. But just really trusting the process, and I knew going into the game, we had a package that I was going to be in. I was in earlier in the game. Didn't know how many times it was being called, but every game I prepared the same way that I did for Michigan. It didn't change my preparation just because we were playing in the college football semifinals against Michigan, whether we were playing whoever.
I'll have more in moments.
Guthrie's was America's first chicken finger restaurant, and now Guthrie's Golden Fried Chicken Fingers is your Bama tailgate headquarters. Make Guthrie's and their famous signature dipping sauce your one-stop shop for all your tailgate needs. Order online or call ahead and place your game day orders now. Guthrie's, America's original chicken finger restaurant, and now an official partner of the Alabama Crimson Tide. For franchise information, visit Guthrie'sChicken.com.
We've got you covered for Alabama football against South Carolina on Saturday. Our radio coverage will start at 8 a.m. all across the radio network, the Varsity Network app, as well as the Yay Alabama booth cam, streaming live on all CTSN social media platforms. Airtime 8 a.m., kickoff at 11 against the Gamecocks. Crimson Tide Today is brought to you by Guthrie's. Crimson Tide Today is a production of the Crimson Tide Sports Network from Learfield.
Mr. SEC Tournament Wimp Sanderson gives you his excellent analysis every weekday on Inside the Locker Room, right here on Tide 100.9.
back to Tide 100.9, 1230 WTBC, your home of Alabama Crimson Tide sports. I had the right numbers in terms of total plays that Alabama's defense has played, but I had the wrong positions. I said 327. Alabama's played 372 defensive snaps. So that was close at least. Alabama's played 372 snaps, so we can safely assume Xavier Brown's probably played, close to 300, if not a little more. So that's a ton of reps that he's getting so far this season. Like 300 snaps is a lot of snaps, and a lot of that probably came in that game against Vanderbilt as well. So that's good learning experiences for not only Xavier Brown, but also some of these other guys, right? Keon Sabb, coming into the season, you could count how many starts he had on one hand, right? So he's got experience in college football. Now, not games he's played, but games he's started, right? So he's got experience in college football, but he's still young. He's still inexperienced as well in terms of being a starting safety. And so that's experience that he's getting. Damani Jackson's gaining a ton of experience. Deshaun Jones, Jalen Mbakwe, who wasn't even playing corner this time last year. He was playing QB for the eventual state champions, the Clay Chalkville Cougars. I think that's their mascot. Clay Chalkville High School, regardless, who ended up defeating Saraland High School in the state championship game. Jalen Mbakwe wasn't playing corner. He was playing quarterback. So it's a tough transition for him, right? He's still getting adjusted to playing DB at the University of Alabama. So is Xavier Brown. So is a lot of these other guys, right? LT Overton is having a good surgeons, but he's finally playing a position that he's comfortable in, right? James Smith is a very young guy on the defensive front. He's very disruptive. Go back and watch any game he's played in. He's very disruptive. But sometimes the technique's not quite there because he's so young. So there's still a lot of players, a lot of guys learning a lot of different things on this defense. And I think this defense will continue to improve. I don't think this Vanderbilt game is what this defense typically is. I don't think the first half of Georgia is what this defense typically is. There's somewhere in the middle of that. And you just hope that the middle is closer to the first half against Georgia than the game against Vanderbilt, right? But in terms of putting plays on tape, this Alabama defense has put a lot more iffy tape out there than a lot of great tape. Now, granted, I could be wrong. They could come out, smash South Carolina. This defense actually is built to stop a more Tennessee-like offense, not necessarily a ground and pound or not necessarily a run-heavy offense, but more so of a play action, a zone scheme that Tennessee likes to run, right? So this defense is geared to stop an offense like Tennessee, not an offense like Vanderbilt. So they may come out and smash Tennessee too. I don't know. I'm not Nostradamus. But regardless, it's still a lot of good tape that they're getting out there. This defense will have played over 400 snaps by the time it gets to the Tennessee game, which is big time. That's a lot of reps. So it's something that you're hopeful for. You're hopeful that these guys continue to take strides and continue to develop. But at the same time, we need to understand as well that, hey, sometimes these guys take a little bit of time. Sometimes it takes a full season, I'm excited to see what these guys look like next year, because now you'll have even more defensive back depth. Now you'll have Xavier Brown with a full season starting under his belt. And it all depends on who you lose to the NFL and the transfer portal as well, right? Malachi Moore is gone. He's out of eligibility regardless. So no matter what happens, he's played in 5 games. So no matter what happens, Malachi Moore is done with college football after this year. He's gone to the league, right? Keon Sabb's draft eligible. But does he come back? Damani Jackson's draft eligible, but does he come back? Same with Deshaun Jones. I think he's draft eligible, but does he come back? And if those 3 guys come back with Xavier Brown, Zay Mincy, Jalen Mbakwe staying as well, that's 6 DBs, which is where you're at currently. We'll throw in Jaleel Hurley as well because he is a redshirt freshman right now. And then you're getting Chuck McDonald and Dijon Lee in as well. 2 really, really, really talented cornerbacks from the high school ranks. Well, now you're at 9 corners, right? And that helps your depth a little bit. That makes you feel a little bit better about your depth going into next season, because not only do your starting guys have a lot of experience, but now you've got some valuable depth there as well. Let's go ahead and head to the phone lines here, and let's talk with our good buddy Philip. Philip, how you doing this morning?
I'm doing good, man. Hope you're doing good.
We're doing all right. What's on your mind this morning?
Receiving core. We're a little beat up right now, and it doesn't look like from from today's standpoint that Law and Prentice may play tomorrow. So you got Cole is a little bit banged up, although he's out there trying. But we're a little bit banged up there, and that's a concern. We need for Henderson to ramp it up, and they need for Caleb Odom to ramp it up because Cuevas is banged up now. He took a pretty hard blow the other day. I don't know what his situation is, but he was not on the injury report that you printed yesterday. So that's a little bit of a concern. I'm really ready for Mbakwe. I wish they would figure out a way that can't be that to figure out a way to get that guy on the field.
I mean, he's a very electric ball player. I love watching Jalen Mbakwe. Matter of fact, like I covered the state championship game here in Tuscaloosa whenever he was playing against Saraland High School. He's electric, man. He's a great player with the ball in his hands, and I think playing quarterback at the high school level is helping him play DB and play punt returner as well because he understands how to handle the football. He understands how to carry the football. He's not like some of these other safeties who have only played, or some of these other players who have only played DB their entire lives. So, they very rarely are handling the football. Mbakwe was handling the ball every single play last season. So it's valuable experience. And in terms of Josh Cuevas, he got the breath knocked out of him. He came back into that game against Vanderbilt. I think he's fine. I don't envision Kobe Prentice playing in this game just because of the hit that he suffered against Vanderbilt. You want to make sure that he goes through the protocol like he's supposed to, because that was a scary situation sitting in that stadium. Kendrick Law, I think, is probably closer to playing than closer to being out, but maybe he's on a snap count. Justin Jefferson, the linebacker, was listed as a game time decision, and he dressed. I remember seeing him on the sideline in that game against Vanderbilt, but he never came in the game. So maybe that's kind of what they're doing with Kendrick Law, but I agree. Like, Alabama needs some other guys to start to step up in that receiver room. You can't just rely on Ryan Williams. As much as you've been able to so far, don't get me wrong, kid's phenomenal. You can't just rely on Ryan Williams and say Ryan's the only thing that's going to get us going.
Yeah, to me, the step up just has not. To me, it just has not happened, and they need it. I know that Ryan's ascension is incredible to watch and all that, but you can't just rely on him time after time. So we got some guys that need to step up, and Quindarius Robinson, he needs to be on the field all the time.
He's a heck of a ball player, man. I'll tell you what, he's trusted the process and he's thriving right now. I agree with you that he probably needs to be on the field a little bit more, but at the same time, Quay Russaw, when he is healthy, and he's been healthy ever since the Wisconsin game, mostly healthy, ever since the Wisconsin game, he's a baller too, man. He's so good. Right.
Well, it's going to be an important game tomorrow, and Alabama's got to get off to a good start defensively, and the crowd's got to get into it. And if they can make some stops, I think it'll be, a pretty positive day. But if South Carolina drives it down their throat early and sort of picks on them, it's going to be it's not going to be good.
I think you'll start to see Kalen DeBoer change some decisions. And what I mean by that is, remember, Alabama won the toss and they elected to defer last week, right, against Vanderbilt. So they put Vanderbilt's offense on the field first. Alabama was playing from behind ever since that first drive. Alabama never once took a lead in that football game, right? So I think you could potentially start to see and say, okay, look, if our defense is just not going to be able to get a stop, let's play with the lead. Let's take the ball first. Let's go down the field and score. And then they're playing from behind, which then, again, plays into what the defense does well.
Right. Hey, man, my dog's going crazy barking, so I appreciate you taking my call.
Absolutely, Philip. Thank you so much for calling in.
Thank you, man.
That was Philip there. Some of the players that could step up if Kobe Prentice and Kendrick Law are not good to go. You've got Jeremy Bernard, the transfer wide receiver from Washington, who came into the University of Alabama, was expected to be the superstar on this Alabama offense, and yet the 17-year-old beat him to it. Ryan Williams beat him to it. Ryan Williams has 544 yards on the season. First off, that's impressive through 5 games so far this year. He's averaging 28.6 yards per catch, and he's got 6 touchdowns on the season. This kid is something phenomenal, folks. Like, I covered him for 3 years because I covered Saraland High School football, right? I covered his freshman year, his sophomore year, his junior year. This kid is electric. He is a great ball player. But even I didn't quite understand how good he could potentially be. And yet he is outshining every expectation that we had, I had, anybody really had, maybe not Pat, but anybody else had for this kid here in his first season of college football. But if Kobe Prentice and Kendrick Law are not able to go, I think you'll start to see Jeremy Bernard get a lot more attention from the offense, or like in Alabama's offense. He'll start to get a lot more run, a lot more attention in that side of things as well, in that aspect. Emmanuel Henderson Jr. is another guy. He had a big catch against Georgia early in that football game. Kind of got a little quiet after that, but regardless, he still made some great plays. He's a good run blocking wide receiver. So if Alabama does choose to run the football, I think they could potentially throw Emmanuel Henderson Jr. out there as well. Caleb Odom, of course, everybody knows who Caleb Odom is, the absolute giant of a wide receiver. He's like Mike Evans-esque is how big this dude is. And so he's a big bodied receiver. I think Alabama could rely on him maybe a little bit. Cole Adams, like Phillip said, Cole Adams is banged up with that elbow injury. As I'm sure everybody's seen, he's wearing that big giant brace on his arm every time he's, out there. So it'll be interesting to see, but I think those are your guys that are going to step up. And then of course, Ryan Williams. So Ryan Williams, Jeremy Bernard, Emmanuel Henderson Jr., and Cole Adams. That's probably your 4 receiver rotation, until something happens in a positive light, I should say, with Kobe Prentice and Kendrick Law, with them potentially being able to play, maybe not this weekend, but next weekend against Tennessee. And then I think you'll start to see a lot of these young guys start to get some reps as well. Guys like Amari Jefferson, who we haven't yet seen this season. Guys like Rico Scott, who's got 2 catches on the year, 14 yards. His big one was an 11-yard reception against South Florida by quarterback Ty Simpson. And then I think also you'll get the tight ends involved once again. C.J. Dupree is Alabama's 3rd leading receiver, 127 yards. Josh Cuevas has 91 yards and a touchdown this season. C.J. Dupree does not have a touchdown this season. But I think that's kind of where you'll start to see things as well. And then maybe even potentially getting the running backs even more involved in the passing game than they already look to have been. Justice Haynes, 8 catches, 38 yards on the season. Jam Miller, 4 catches, 37 yards on the season, and a touchdown for Justice Haynes there. So it'll be interesting to see. I think this is a game that may test a little bit of Alabama's offense because they may be a little bit lighter at the receiver position than they want to be. But regardless, I still think it's going to be a good football game. I'm expecting Ryan Williams to have 100 yards every game at this point, because that's what he's averaging. He's averaging more than 100 per game right now. So I just expect it at this point from him, which is wild to say about a kid who is 17 years old. I know we hear it on the broadcast every single time he makes a play. It's wild to think about that. Hey, look, we're expecting 100 yards a game from a kid who, if Alabama wins the national championship, which they still could do, wouldn't even be 18 years old at the time of the championship game. Wild to think about, but regardless, he's a great ball player. Enjoy it while it lasts, because he's only going to be here 2.5 more years, because Ryan Williams is going to be a first-round pick in the NFL draft. We're going to go to break here. When we come back, David, I see you, and I promise we'll get to your app message there as well. Right here at Tide 100.9, 1230 WTBC, your home of Alabama Crimson Tide Sports.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
Tuscaloosa traffic now from the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center. We have had quite a quiet morning, and it just continues with traffic pretty much free-flowing across the area. Now, it doesn't mean we're not necessarily slow in some parts, like on McFarland Boulevard. I do see where you're slowing down on the westbound lanes, right at University Boulevard. And then we're also looking at typical intersection activity on McFarland at Lurleen Wallace. With your Tuscaloosa traffic now, Tammy Thomas.
Now trending? Fall. And DSW's here with all the obsession-worthy shoe trends you need in your closet. Feeling fierce? DSW's got bold snake print boots and a retro sneaker with animal print details. Going for demure? Kitten heels are the eye-catching yet walkable heel all over your feet. And all over DSW. From edgy moto boots to sweetly simple ballet flats. Find the must-own shoe trends of the season right now at your DSW store or DSW.com.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
Our long dry spell continues today. The sky's sunny. The high for this afternoon around 80. Clear and cool tonight, the low 52. For tomorrow and Sunday, lots of sunshine both days with warm afternoons. The high tomorrow 82, the high Sunday 85. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 53 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
The best place for your high school football coverage is right here on Tide 100.9 and online on Tide100.9.com.
So I know, Chase, I went ahead and I put in all these new rejoin beds because some of our other ones expired, but I hadn't heard that one yet. That one was interesting. We ran a little bit long with Philip there, so let's go ahead and hit an app message before we go right back to break here. Chase, take it away.
Yeah, we got one from SLC Bama Girl out in Salt Lake.
Salt Lake City?
Yes, sir.
Nice.
Crazy. Shout out to them. She said, all that matters tomorrow is a win, even if it's by 1 point. To think this season is over if Alabama doesn't blow South Carolina out tomorrow is absurd.
I agree that it's absurd, but there's definitely, like, Alabama's got a lot of concerns right now, as does every team. This is not just an Alabama thing. There's a lot of concerns with this Alabama team right now. Number one, the inability to get the run game going when you need it to get going, right? Outside of Jalen Milroe, Alabama really struggled in the run game against Georgia. Again, Alabama struggled to run the ball against Vanderbilt. Part of that was because of the game plan, because they were down by that point, so they pretty much had to, quote unquote, abandon the game plan there. If Alabama blows South Carolina out, I think we're fine. I think everybody, we can kind of feel better about this team and this season because we can say, okay, look, the Vanderbilt game was a fluke, quite frankly. It was a hangover game. You don't want to have that. You wish it wasn't the Vanderbilt, but I get it. But if they only beat South Carolina by a point, that raise, especially depending on how the game goes. If it's a low-scoring slugfest, I think there's some concerns at that point. Now, granted, if it's a 52-51 game, you're going to open even more concerns on the defensive side of the ball. But, again, if it's a low-scoring slugfest and it's a 24-20 type of football game, okay, that makes you feel a little bit better about the defense because the defense stepped up. The defense did their job. The defense got stops when they needed to get stops, right? Alabama has allowed 30 – wow, I can't remember the Georgia score. What was it, 41-35? They allowed 35 points against Georgia and 40 points against Vanderbilt. That's concerning. And I get, Alabama was playing a little bit more conservative, a little bit more on their heels against Georgia in that second half because they had such a big lead. But still, allowing 35 points and 40 points in back-to-back weeks is a little concerning if you're the Alabama defense. Now, granted, Vanderbilt was running an option. I'm not making excuses for that game. Like, Kalen DeBoer and the Alabama's coaching staff has said, we're not making excuses. We are owning this loss. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. But it's a little concerning if Alabama gives up 30-plus points to a struggling South Carolina team, especially when an LSU defense, who's one of the worst in college football, did the exact same thing. Right? I'm not comparing Alabama to LSU, but I'm saying it may be a little bit of a concern depending on how this game plays out. Now, again, if it's, 17-14 or something like that, Alabama wins, yeah, you're a little scared. You're saying, what the heck happened to the offense? But at the same time, you're saying, hey, good job defense. Right? You guys got your job done. You guys held them down. You guys shut it down. Only allowed them to score, so many points. And so it all just depends. But I agree. The biggest thing about this game is Alabama rights the ship, gets a win, and takes some positive momentum into the back half of the schedule, because the back half of your schedule is a lot tougher than the first half of your schedule. Despite the fact that you played Georgia on the road at Wisconsin and lost to Vanderbilt, right? The back half of your schedule, you've got 3 rivalry games, a road trip to a stadium that nobody on your staff has coached at, nobody on your team has played at. So it's a little tough. It's a little concerning. So you want Alabama to hit their stride going into the back half of their schedule versus saying, hey, Alabama peaked in week 5 against Georgia. I don't think they peaked in week 5 against Georgia. I'm not saying that at all. But I still think this game can be concerning but I still think Alabama wins. And I personally think Alabama gets the win, gets a big win, rights the ship. Everybody's feeling better going into Tennessee next week. That's what I personally think is going to happen. But I can see the avenue. I like to play devil's advocate. I'm not on the morning shows a ton, so a lot of these people don't quite understand. And I know SLC Bama Girl listens to some of our other programs, but for those that don't, I'm not typically on the morning shows. So I will give my opinion, and then I'll also play devil's advocate with myself, because I always like to do that. It's a lot of fun. Playing devil's advocate is really fun for me. So I can see the avenue where this is a concern for Alabama, but I can also see the avenue where Alabama is going to just beat the brakes off of them, and we all feel great about this Alabama team going into Knoxville, Tennessee. So we'll see. We'll come back on the other side of this break. Phone lines are piling up. We'll get all three of you guys, David, Roland, Tom. We got you right here on the other side of this break. Tide 100.9, 1230 WTBC, your home of Alabama Crimson Tide Sports.
Go inside the Alabama Crimson Tide with the Gary Harris Show.
Friday morning at 9 a.m., it's the TGIF edition of the Gary Harris Show, coming to you live from Innisfree Irish Pub on University Boulevard as part of our Fridays at the Free. We're going to have guests. We're going to have our Bama football trivia giveaway, SEC point spread predictions, and a whole lot more. It's always fun on Fridays at the Free. The Gary Harris Show, Friday morning at 9 a.m.
Catch the Gary Harris Show Monday through Friday, 9 to 11 a.m. on Tide 100.9 and Tide100.9.com.
Tide 100.9 Traffic.
Tuscaloosa traffic now from the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center. We have had quite a quiet morning, and it just continues with traffic pretty much free-flowing across the area. Now, it doesn't mean we're not necessarily slow in some parts, like on McFarland Boulevard. I do see where you're slowing down on the westbound lanes, right at University Boulevard. And then we're also looking at typical intersection activity on McFarland at Lurleen Wallace. With your Tuscaloosa traffic now, Tammy Thomas.
This report. Inside the Locker Room with Wimp and Barry on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Welcome back to the final segment inside the Locker Room. Tide 100.9, 1230 WTBC, your home of Alabama Crimson Tide Sports. We're going to try and squeeze in all these phone calls here, so we got to move a little bit quicker than normal. David, you're first up. How you doing this morning?
I'm doing good. And here's my question for you, and this is a good question. I'm going to have to give a little bit of background here. First off, we have 4 opponents this year that have open dates. Boy, they play Georgia, Vandy, Oklahoma, and LSU. Now, 2 of those are a wash when it comes to having an advantage. Because
right.
Georgia, we both had the same time to prepare each other, all that kind of get people well, dressed and all that. Vanderbilt, we did not. And also Oklahoma, we will not. So here's my question. Looking back over many, many, many years, how many times have we ever really had that advantage? Because for years and years, we actually played off. I got a long one to my mind. I got it the other way. Anyway, for years and years, we had an open day for Auburn. They had an open day for us. Then the SEC decided we didn't need to have that. I think there was maybe an open day that close to the SEC championship. So they changed it. I don't know when we first started playing LSU every year when they had an open day, we had an open day. It may have been from the get-go. What I want to know is how many times have we had that advantage of having an open date and the opponent we were playing coming off the open date had to play the weekend we were off.
In what I can remember, because we just moved to the double buys, so from what I can remember,
regardless of double buys, even back when we had a single buy.
But that's what I'm saying. That's what I was getting at. Alabama always had the bye before LSU. Alabama always had around Halloween off, partly because it's Nick Saban's birthday, but also because you play LSU that next week. But LSU always had that same bye week. So Alabama, LSU were going head to head, both fresh, both having 2 weeks to game plan. I don't know if Alabama's really ever had, at least since Nick Saban got hired, had the advantage of a bye week before a team, and in the sense that you're talking about, where Alabama had a bye and the other team did not.
I mean, I don't know before Saban did it happen, because like I said, for years and years, till the SEC championship came about, it was always Auburn.
Right. So I don't know.
There was only a small portion of time there, from Auburn, and maybe not any portion of time between Auburn and LSU, having the same bye weeks a week.
Right. I'd be interested to see that, and I'd be interested to see how Kalen DeBoer responds to that, because I guarantee you he's not getting favor. That happened with him at Washington last year. He'd have a bye week, and then the other team would be playing. That's not going to happen at Alabama. Right out there, the schedule makers are almost always going to create the schedule where Alabama and their opponent has a bye week before they play each other in the big marquee matchups.
And I can't help but wonder, not a conspiracy theory person, but maybe somebody in that office has a burr up the rear end for Alabama. Because, I look at basketball.
Yeah.
You may not know this. I think now 11 of the last 12 years we've ended our season on the road.
Yeah, and they do it again this year going to Auburn.
That's not normal.
No, it's not. It's absolutely not.
I remember times in baseball, if I remember correctly, where we would have 2 home series bracketed over spring break. One the weekend before, one the weekend after. Yeah, right. One the weekend after, and it kind of just makes me wonder. Maybe our athletic department needs to get a whole lot more proactive on when,
You would think with the office being in Birmingham, they get that favorable treatment, but nope, they don't get it.
So anyway, if you could find that answer, and I was hoping to get Wimp, just because of his age, he might,
I would say Wimp would have a better answer.
Understanding of it,
Maybe call back on Monday when Wimp comes back, and we'll see if we can get that answer for you. And I'll do some research too and see if I can find it.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it. Have a great day.
Thank you so much, David, for calling in. We're going to stick with the phone lines here real quick. Roland, you're up, man. Fire away.
Hey, there's never no reason to lose to Vandy. You got 4 and 5 stars at every position. They got 2 and 3 stars. They probably had got 2 4-stars on the whole team. I don't know, but the game the other day, what got me was, I thought it was poor coaching, really. Just if you want to be truthful, it was poor coaching.
It was.
The defense was terrible, and the call Will got called for number 2 to be on the field. That is unforgettable. To me, that cost us the game right there. You always say there's plays in the game that did this, did that, but basically that cost us the game. And probably another instance that really irritated me was, much as I love Jalen, this has happened to him, I know 3 times, where he crosses the line and throws a pass. If he runs that ball, he gets the first down, we keep the drive going. He throws the ball, even, that's a 50-50 probably ball anyway. Go ahead and get your first down and give yourself 3 more downs. Instead he's got to be more aware of where he is when he throws the ball, because that's happened to him, like I said, I know 3 times. And you hardly ever see that happen.
I agree, but at the same time, you also got to think he was pressured a lot in this game, right? And so it was just instinct. He saw a white jersey flying open down the field and said, I got it, right? He may not have quite realized where he was on the field, and it's happened to other quarterbacks as well, not just Jalen. But I do agree that that's something that they probably need to work on is, understanding, where the line of scrimmage is every single play. And it's a lot mentally that he's having to deal with as a quarterback. I mean, you got to think he gets on average about 2 seconds to throw the football, right? And so he is having to know the play, read the defense, find an open receiver, figure out how he needs to throw this ball in order to allow the receiver to make a catch, put it in a spot where only his receiver can get it, and then at the same time avoid a pass rush. Right? So I agree with you, though. If he runs that football, he picks up the first down, and maybe Alabama scores that drive. I don't know. And then I don't know if you listen to my show, Roland. I'm not saying you should or shouldn't, but I said it on my show. There were 4 plays in this football game that, as much as Alabama was outplayed, you change the outcome of one of those 4 plays, and it's a different ball game, right? The illegal numbering penalty, because that extended the Vanderbilt drive, and they scored on that drive. Malachi Moore getting beat on 4th down, right? They drop that ball or Malachi forces an incompletion. That was 4th down. That's a turnover on downs. Jalen Milroe throwing the pick 6, right? That ball flew up into the air and hung in the air for what felt like forever. I guarantee you run that play back, and that's almost never going to happen again when that ball just hangs in the air like that. And then Elijah Pritchett just getting absolutely worked on that right tackle spot and getting Jalen Milroe sacked in that forced fumble. You change the outcome of one of those 4 plays, and as much as Alabama was outplayed against Vanderbilt, they win that football game.
Did you feel like, and I think Jalen goes into this mode sometimes, where he says, "I'm gonna pass the ball regardless." When he runs, he's real effective when he takes what the defense gives him and takes a 10, 15, 20, 30-yard run. But it seemed like the other day, like the Georgia game, he wanted to throw the ball. And, I want to be like Daniels at LSU last year. When it's there, take it. Take it 15, 20 yards.
Yes and no. I think it's just part of the developmental process, right? Jaden Daniels last year knew and understood, okay, this is, I can take what I can get. And he's a little bit older than Jalen. He was a little bit older than Jalen. He was older last year than what Jalen is this year, right? He was a 5th-year guy. And so that's another year of development. Right, it's just a part of the developmental process. I agree, though. If Jalen does a better job of taking what the defense gives him, this offense can go as far as he can, right? This offense is run by Jalen Milroe. This offense will go as far as Jalen Milroe takes them. And it's just the developing process. He spent all offseason pretty much developing at quarterback, and yet he still needs to understand, hey, you've got the ground run. You've got the ability to you're one of the most electric runners in college football. Use that to your advantage. And it's just, again, it's all development. And probably what happened was last week, Alabama was thinking, hey, we've got to throw this football because we're down by 2 scores every single time we pick up the football. And so it's just a part of the process. It was a part of the game flow, and it just didn't work out for Alabama. But Jalen's been really, really good this year, though.
Yeah, I'll let you go, but I do listen to your show today. I really enjoy your show, and I call in from time to time.
Well, thank you, Roland. I appreciate it.
I listen to it at least 2 or 3, 4 times a week. Sometimes I'm going to the doctor, so I don't get to listen, but you're one of the 3 shows to listen to on that station, so good job.
Well, thank you, Roland. I do appreciate it. Have a great one, man.
Thanks.
Tom, I'm so sorry we couldn't get to you today. Hang on for the Gary Harris Show, though. Up next, Gary Harris live from Innisfree Irish Pub. I want to thank Wimp and Barry Sanderson once again for allowing me to fill in for them right here on Tide 100.9 and 1230 WTBC, your home of Alabama Crimson Tide Sports.